Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Union Officer Leadership webinar this afternoon. We're going to get started here in a second. Give another minute or two to let everybody fall into the room and get this thing filled out. Glad you're here, taking the time on this beautiful day to get a quick class in. Andy's going to be helping me today. How's it going, Andy?
Good, good. How's everybody today? Of course, no one can answer, but yeah, just looking forward to getting this class in today from home, which is nice rather than a station or something, but beautiful day to be inside. It's cold here.
Yeah, I know it looks so nice out. If we could just get those temperatures to bump up a little. It's
Yeah,
light at the
that's
end of the
coming soon enough, I think.
yeah, light at the end of the tunnel. So, and we also got Bill with us, who's our training coordinator from LCC right now.
Yes,
Hey, Bill.
I'm stuck in the office right now, so I'll be working till 5. You guys go have some fun.
Perfect. We're glad you're here. All right. Well, it's 1 o'clock, so we're going to get this party started off. Go ahead there, Andy.
Well, welcome everybody. This is our local Union Officer Leadership webinar. As we start scrolling through this here, we're going to have some introductions. Myself, Andy Hood, I'll be moderating. Member of the Education and Training Committee. I've been on there probably 6, 7 years. Currently vice chair. I also work for Harrison Township, local 1737, Macomb County. I see we got one or two Macomb County people on the list here. Served for many years, both vice president and president of my local. And again, been involved with the state union for quite some time as well. Our main presenter today is going to be Sean, and I'll turn it over to him for an introduction.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Abbey. I'm a 2nd District Vice President for the state. I've been doing that for about 10 years. I'm also an IFF service rep and a member of the Education Training Committee for quite some time. We're going to be talking about leadership today, so that's a lot of the stuff that I kind of deal with and kind of done for a while. So as a leader in the 2nd for 10 years, and then a leader in my own local for a while before that. In my own local, 3174, I've been there for 25 years, and I was on the e-board and president and all that. First, my time when I was on the e-board before I started with the state. So I'm glad to be here, and this is a fun class. This is a good class, and I'm looking forward to it. We also have Bill with us.
And also with us. Oh, yeah, we got Bill with us today. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm the newly appointed Education and Training Coordinator for the MPFFU. I also run the LCC Fire Science Program. Retired from Lansing Fire after 25 years as Battalion Chief Local 421, and I still teach in the IFF Fireground Survival Program, so happy to be here.
Very good. Thanks for being here with us. So we're going to get into some tips, and I'm going to, let's see if we can work on killing our webcams here so everyone can concentrate on what we have going. But we have a couple webinar tips here. If this is your first one, there's a couple things you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen. You've got a toolbar. And I'll be checking that periodically. If someone has a question, there's a spot where you can raise your hand. That'll give me an indicator here, and I'll be able to pause Sean when he gets to a point in the presentation where we can take a question, and I can turn your microphone on and we can go directly to you for your question. We're going to have a couple polls throughout the presentation today. It's going to be, they'll pop up on the screen, go ahead and answer them, and we'll get the results from everybody. And again, we do have a chat bar too we can use. It's pretty much a little better if we all raise your hand, turn your microphone on, you can ask your question that way. But everything does work. We are recording this session. We're going to put it up on the State Union's website and out through the Facebook feed so that others can see it as well. And also on the right-hand side on your taskbar there's a thing called Handouts. If you click that tab, you'll see all the handouts we reference in this. You can go ahead and download those to your desktop. There's some good information in there. A number of different things you can use that are related to this class. So as we do that, we're going to go into our first poll, and I'll pull it up here, and there's multiple answers, so you can go ahead and answer that however you like. And here it goes. Have you ever participated in a webinar before? How about an MPFFU webinar? Go ahead and select your answers here. I'll give it about 30 seconds to let most people answer here. Almost there. Okay, here we go. And the answers are quite a variety here. We've got a few yes, but only a couple. Yes, many times, between 5 and 10. And we've got a few first-timers here. No, this is my first webinar, 17% of the people. And this is my first MPFFU webinar. Well, that's good. We hope you'll get some good information out of it, and everyone appreciates it. So.
Awesome. So today we're just going to go over this really quickly. We're going to talk about what it is to be a leader. Big things, communications. I oftentimes, if you heard me speak before, I talked that we're in the age of communication, yet we do a poor job of communicating. So we'll talk a little bit about that and knowing kind of your roles and responsibilities, whether you're a seasoned veteran to leading your local, or if you've just taken over the reins and are looking for some pointers. We'll talk about that. How you get help. You're not in this alone. There's a lot of assistance out there. We just need to know where to find it. And the importance of being politically active, whether it be, in politics is everything, whether it be your politics as your local president in your own local, or the politics in City Hall, at the state or federally, whatever. We're all politically connected, and it's important that you're active in that. And this is just one piece of the puzzle for you as a leader. There's a lot of information out there. We're running these webinars pretty frequently. We're trying to get them about an hour a piece. There's many on the state website already. This morning we did one on representing members. We've got them on DFR, how to run a union meeting. There's lots of them on there, and we'll allude to those quite a bit through the program today, because really to be effective, you really need to get a lot of that information. So, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time today. So for example, when we're talking about union meetings, for example, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on running a union meeting. We've got a whole 1 hour webinar on just that. So make sure you seek those out.
Another important thing to remember too is these things are evolving over time. So if you're watching a webinar that we put together and sent out a year ago, it could be totally different due to legislative changes or everything else that's been going on too. So it is important to keep up on the webinars as they come out, and even on the website as we post them out. So I'll go ahead and read through this here. This is a legal disclaimer we throw on the beginning of all of these. Legal counsel kind of requires us to do this. But the webinar is intended to serve only as informal guidance on the matters addressed. It should not be relied upon as legal advice. Anyone using this document or information provided in the associated training program should rely on his or her own independent judgment, or, as appropriate, seek the advice of a competent professional in determining the exercise of reasonable care in any given circumstance. The MPFFU disclaims liability for any injury or other damages of any nature whatsoever, directly or indirectly, resulting from the use or the reliance on this webinar or the associated training program. Now, it's kind of important to know that this is more of a broad overview than a specific, deep, in-depth review of the subject matter, and it goes along with all of our webinars. And there's a lot of other places you can get information from, local leaders or your legal counsel.
At this time, Andy, if you can just type a question out, see if you can send it to everybody. What do you think a good leader means, and send that to everybody, or people can respond to their question as a question. But basically, while I'm reading these quotes off, I just want you guys to type in a good adjective that describes what you think a good leader is. So just take a second and put in your question box or wherever. When you think of a good leader, what are some of the things that you think of that make a good leader? And I'll read these while you're doing that. But remember, I like this first one. Management's doing things right. Leadership's doing the right things. I think that speaks volumes, because as management, they're always trying to, do the right things. But again, as a leader, you have to differentiate and say, hey, let's make sure we're doing the right things by our people. We're guiding them right and leading in a manner just like you'd want to be led, not taking people down the right path. Make sure, I like this one too, and this can go in the fire service. A lot of these things are in fire service as well as the union. But don't tell people how to do things. Just tell them what you want to do, and then let them surprise you with the results, by General Patton. And then Dwight Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, talked about leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. And I think that's amazing. If you think about good leaders in your life or in your past, and think about that, that's key. You want people to do things because they want to do them, not because you're telling them to do them. A lot of that comes by leading by example and setting good expectations and things like that. But really, that's what it is, because you really want people to you want them part of the team. You know, you don't want to be the person, the dictator. You want to lead that team and make them, they want to do the best thing they can do. They want to give the best every day. So really, that's kind of sums up being a good leader. Andy, what are
So
some
we
of
did
those
get a
adjectives?
couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we got a couple good responses here, right? Brandon, fair, calm, and knowledgeable. I think that's important, absolutely. I've worked for an unfair leader and a leader that wasn't calm, and it didn't show good leadership qualities. There's one here. Kyle says leads by example. Absolutely. It goes right back to doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Integrity and leading the correct way. Someone who leads by example. You have to respect your guys if you want to be respected. That's Ryan's comment. And approachable. Jacob said approachable. All these are 100% accurate.
Excellent.
Good answers, guys.
All good ones. It really comes down to being a good communicator, being organized, and organized, that comes with time management too. Any of you guys that are local leaders, you've got a lot of you have families at home. You got to deal with that. You got to deal with the fire department, and then you're dealing with union stuff too. Maybe even you have a side job as well. Time management is essential. I know it's probably one of the hardest things to do in our job because it's just not made for time management. So being organized is key. Integrity is a great word for a good leader, that they, you can look up to them and respect them. If they don't have a lot of integrity, it's hard to do. Show your authority too. That person, people want here. I like the key on this is people want to be led by a strong, competent leader. I find a lot of times when you have wishy-washy, people think that, oh, you know what, I'll be wishy-washy, or I don't want to be the micromanager. I don't want to be but you know what, at the end of the day, people want good direction, good expectations, and they want a leader that can lead, and they'll follow them. So I think you have to have the authority to do that. And a lot of times I think people going into that think, they might not want to be that authoritative, and it comes off as wishy-washy and can't make a decision and things like that. And it's really, people don't want to follow a person like that. And somebody talked about being experienced. That experience is a great thing, but you have to get that experience. You might be a brand new local president, and that'll come with time. But understand that you don't have that experience yet. So you might need to seek out advice and information from a predecessor or other people talk about as we go through, and obviously knowledgeable. And if you are experienced, mentor those people. We're going to talk about a quote later in the day about creating more leaders, not more followers. You need to mentor people because guess what? We're not all going to be here forever. That's one of the things I love about teaching these programs and working with up and coming union leaders is, I'm going to be retiring soon. We're all not in this forever. I want the people coming behind me to be able to kind of, carry that torch. So it's really important. Responsible. This is a big one, and I like the responsibility piece is, it comes back to that last thing, doing the right things, because a lot of times you got to go above, everybody in the local would love, sometimes, let's say if we could just hang out all shift and not do anything. Okay, we're just not going to get anything done today because, I don't feel like I'm not very busy. I've been busy. I just want to chill out. But, being responsible, saying, hey, you know what, we need to get our work done. We need to do stuff. You need to be responsible. And again, remembering that might not be the favorite opinion. You might have to go. Being responsible means that the decision you come up with or the way you go might not be the best thing to do, because the best thing to do might be not the best thing, but the more popular thing to do. But the best thing is not always the most popular. Make sure you have a vision for your local, know where you're going. We'll talk about that. And obviously, ethics is a big thing. You got to be ethical. You can't make decisions here and there, and everything comes back to that gut check. Through life, whether it be in the fire service, union, whatever, it all comes back to your gut check. If you feel something's wrong or something's amiss, it probably is. And if you can't live with that, then you need to do something different about it. So use good ethics. Be a good example. You lead by example. You can't expect your whole local to show up for Fill the Boot if you never show up. You can't expect people to show up for commission meetings if you never go. So be that good example, and then always be respectful, because if you are respectful, people generally respect you back. So those are some good adjectives. Make sure you connect with others. That's a big thing. Everything you do in life is about relationship building, and that's what this talks about. You need to have good relationships with your members, your e-board, your administration, chiefs, things like that, city hall, state reps, definitely. People up in Lansing. So make sure you make those connections though. If you're not reaching out to them and making those connections, you're never going to get anything done. So you really need it's about relationship building, because guess what? If you don't make those relationships, you're just the local union thug. Andy's just a local union thug from Harrison Township. Now I met with Andy and I got to know him a little bit. Oh, now Andy's my friend. He's a local firefighter. He's a good guy. He just happens to be part of the union, and that's fine. I understand that, and that's good. So give people hope. You want to make sure you're moving the bus in the right direction, and you're constantly raising the bar. If the bar keeps getting thrown down, you're not giving people hope. You need to give people hope that things are going to get better. You're doing the best you can, and we'll continue down a good path. Make sure you slow down. This is a hard one for me because you get involved with so many things. You're asked to do so much. So make sure you slow down and don't forget the little things. Make sure you look like you're supposed to be there. You don't want to show up like at a commission meeting, cut off shorts and a tank top and whatever. You're a representative now of your local. You're a leader, so look and act the part. Be organized, look like you belong there. Again, you don't want to show up in a meeting with everybody's in suits and you're in shorts or jeans. So just kind of keep that in mind. I like this be mysterious one. A lot of people ask what this is about, but it really comes down to being in the know. And so, for example, let's say City Hall or city commissions, they're going to be, let's not even use a contract. Let's use something like a fire engine to make it a little less of a big deal. But let's say your fire chief's trying to get you a new fire engine, and you're having lunch with one of the council members, and they happen to say, you know what, Sean, we met about at the budget hearing, and I think we're going to be able to get that fire truck through for you. Well, maybe your next meeting, the next day with the chief, you drop that on the chief, say, hey, I heard we're going to be able to get that new fire engine. He might not even know that yet. And he definitely doesn't know why you know. And again, in the back of his mind, it's not that you know that, but it's the fact that now he knows you're connected. Now he knows, okay, if he knows about that, what else is he finding out about? So it's kind of like he's always going to kind of have in the back of his mind that you might know more than you let on. And sometimes you might not, but in his mind, you might. So ask questions and favors. A lot of times we're good at the first part. Ask questions and find out what's going on. You need to have information. And the way you get information is to ask questions, but then also ask favors. If something needs to be done, don't be afraid to ask a favor of a commissioner or a chief or something like that. Say, hey, chief, we really need this to happen. We worked with you on this particular thing, but we really need you to help us on this. So don't be afraid of that. And the biggest thing, and we talked about a lot of those words, adjectives about leadership. One of the biggest ones for me is commitment. You have to be committed. If you're not committed to something, you're not going to do a good job. You're going to do it half-hearted, and you're not going to give your all. And it can come from a lot of things. It can be from you're overcommitted, so you can't do it. A big one, and I'll use one personally for me. I love burn camp, Great Lakes Burn Camp. But with my family, I'm a BC at the fire department, so that's always got me busy in meetings in there. And the union, I'm passionate about this and being a district vice president. And I try to support my own local and do as much as I can to help them. And I was also on the board. I was actually the board president for Great Lakes Burn Camp. I did that for a few years, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. So I had to step down from that and step down from the board. And it was really just because I was overcommitted. Like I said, to me, that's a big key is you have to be committed. And if you can't, pass it on. And I just got to a point where I had to prioritize the things that I could give 100% to, and I couldn't, something had to be cut. So sometimes you have to do that, just reevaluate so you can make sure you're committed to the right things.
All right, I'm going to toss up another poll question here. And here we go. Does your local leadership regularly attend commission or board meetings? Yes. Someone is always there most of the time, occasionally, or never. So let's go ahead and toss them in there. Give it another 15 seconds here for everyone to get our votes in. A couple more seconds here. Yeah, we've got 75% of people to vote, and the answer, occasionally. Let's see. Occasionally if something is pressing and is on the agenda, or never. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a really big deal. You should really try to get people to those meetings as much as possible. Again, it comes to making those relationships. And if they see you there in the crowd, if they're only seeing you when there's something there that affects you, or that you have to deal with, then you kind of just become like, okay, it's just about you. But if they start seeing your face out there, just in general, and maybe nothing's going on with the fire on that agenda, but they see you out there, they know you're in it. You're in it to you're there to support the city, your municipality, and you're there to kind of find out what's going on and stay informed. And I can't tell you how many times I've been to these things. You make relationships, and then lo and behold, hey Sean, after there's a couple of us commissioners, we're gonna stop by the bar afterwards and have a couple drinks. If you want to stop by with us, that'd be great. And it's like all of a sudden, boom! Now you're making those relationships and you're building those friendships, and that's what it's really about. Because again, at the end of the day, is it self-serving to a point? Yes, of course, because that's what we're here for. But it's the same on their end as well. They're going to need things from you. They want the fire department support. They want the union support. They want to be. Everyone wants that picture next to fire truck. In their campaign. So it's kind of both ways. And you know what? They're probably going back to their friends and and say, hey, I got to hang out with the union president last night. And you're going back saying, hey, I got to hang out with our commissioners last night. So it's a win-win. And at the end of the day, it makes things better for you and your members. So make sure you're trying to get people there. Make sure we're attending all your board meetings, meetings with administration. I went to a conference one time, and it was a IFF IFC labor relations summit basically, and it was about basically trying to get your chiefs and your union presidents to work together better. And one of the things that came out of that for me was my chief and I decided that once a month we would schedule a meeting or a lunch, no matter what. So at the beginning of the year, we'd go through the year and schedule a day where we would meet, go to lunch, whatever, and have nothing on no agenda, nothing, just to talk. And that was amazing once we started getting that routine, how many rumors and heartache things that we just got taken care of just by the fact that we were meeting and talking. And it had nothing to do with anything crazy, and we would just get rid of a lot of junk that might have been something if it would have festered with either one of us. Your elected officials, again, even if you're, obviously those meetings are important, but you know what? Find in your budget once a month, take one of your elected officials out to lunch. Invite them to the state, and if you can't do that, invite them to the station to have coffee or just see what you do. That's really important. And your local elected officials, because of term limits the way they are, will be in Lansing tomorrow. So it's good that you have those relationships built. And to piggyback on that, do the same with your state reps. Your state reps and senators all have office hours close by. They all want to see you. They want to talk to you. So reach out to them. Stop by. Get them to come into your firehouse. Meet with them for lunch. Any of those type of things are very effective and are very helpful. Because here's the thing. When problems strike, isn't the time to learn who your rep is. When problems strike, isn't the time to decide to meet your commissioners for this first time. That should already be done. When problems strike, you want to call them and say, hey, Jim, because that commissioner refuses for you to call him Commissioner Smith. And yeah, hey Jim, we got this thing coming up. They're talking about laying off a couple firefighters and closing the house. Yep, I heard about that. And, well, I just need your support on that. And yeah, you know what, Sean, that's exactly right. There's no way I want to close a firehouse. But versus, who is this, Sean? Who are you? That's not when you want to make that connection. And then the public and media too. Reach out. We probably do a pretty poor job as this as a union, as a group, but with the public, reach out to your public, not just during elections either. It's funny because we in our local, we did some reaching out with a millage, and did some like lunches and things like that for some senior areas, and that went over really well. And we've actually talked about doing them just because. Not because there's an election, but just having another potluck or whatever, and inviting them in because they liked it all so much. So make sure we're engaging with the public and the media, and we'll talk about that as we go forward.
The media part can't be overstressed. We've had a pretty good relationship with the media in Macomb County. There's a local newspaper, Macomb Daily, and one of the reporters years ago, we'd never talked to him, so we'd always write negative things about us. Well, as union president years ago, I started to develop a relationship with him. He'd call me, I'd talk to him, and so on and so forth. And it got to the point where city management started, or township management started to ignore his requests. So whenever there was information or he needed something, he'd actually even call me. Came to be a time and place where the fire chief's contract was up for renewal and our local was opposed to it. He called me immediately, didn't even bother calling the fire chief, and printed favorable comments on our end in the newspaper. And
Nice.
it was all a part of just building that relationship.
Nice. Yeah, and anytime you can do anything like a fire ops or anything like that with the media is awesome. This next slide really is just a PR 101. Make sure when you're doing any written documents or press releases or anything like that, even Twitter, people are putting out tweets now with their locals. You can always seek assistance. The IFF and the MPFFU have PR experts that can help you with messaging. You also have access, and we talked about in the last seminar this morning or the last webinar about how the IFF is probably one of the most underutilized resources that you already pay for. There's that E18 media there that they can make professional looking, whether you want a PSA or you want a billboard. I had the PR department there do a billboard for us. We had a local rep that did billboards, and he had it open for like 2 months. He said, hey, I'd be happy to throw a positive fire meeting. Well, we contact the IFF and they got a billboard put together for us. So, there's so much stuff there. Always make sure you edit and check those things. If you're going on TV, here's a couple things. And again, we can do a whole class on this. Appearance matters. People are going to turn you on or turn you off in the first seconds. So make sure you speak clear and concise and know your message and stay on message, because their goal is to get you off message. So if your message is that we want to keep the fire station on Eastern Avenue open, everything you say should revolve around that. So if they ask you, so Sean, what do you think about these budget cuts? Well, we're really hoping that they keep the Eastern Avenue fire station open. It's crucial to that area. Yeah, but what do you think about them? They're going to have to close those parks over there to do that. That's sad they're closing the parks, but really it comes down to the public safety and having the Eastern Avenue fire station open, because if they close that station, we're going to lose service to this whole area, and it includes those parks. So everything you say needs to kind of go back to that message, because guess what? You're going to interview for, try to keep it short for one thing. That's the best thing, really good advice. But they're going to take that 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of interview, and you're going to get 15 seconds if you're lucky. So as long as you've got that message in there a lot, hopefully that'll get out. And then make sure you also have, so if I'm trying to keep that fire station open, make sure you have some supporting documents that you can give them off camera and say, okay, this is why we need to keep that fire station open, and make sure everything focuses on that. So then maybe in their background story, while you're saying, hey, we need to keep that fire station open, they can say, oh, this station runs 2,500 calls a year and services a 4 square mile area, and without that, the response times are going to go from an average of 3 to 5 minutes to 8 to 10 minutes. And this is why that's crucial, blah, blah, blah. So it's all really good stuff. And make sure, like Andy said, he hit it right on the head. Create relationships with the media before you need them. Know who covers the beat, who the police and fire people are that cover those type of stories, and reach out to them so they know who you are. This is probably a really good thing nowadays, be an active listener. One thing that really drives me crazy is when you're talking with people or having conversations or whatever, and I try to not do it myself, and they're looking at their phone, they're getting a text or they're getting whatever, like I said, we're almost over communicated with. So, you're talking to them and they're reaching their phone, looking at their text messaging or whatever. You almost want to text them back and say, hey, can you get back to this conversation for a second? So try to be an active listener. When you're listening, that's part of communication. A lot of people think the talking part's the most important part, but obviously the listening part is, because you need to be heard. Make sure you limit those distractions when you're listening. So if you know your phone is a distraction and you're at negotiations, don't have the phone sitting on the table in front of you. Put it in your briefcase or put it out of sight so it's not even a distraction. And be patient with people. I tend to talk fast, as you can kind of understand here as we're going through this program. But be patient. A lot of times that's one thing for me. I'll try to be like, yeah, let's go. Be patient. Let them say what they want to say and understand what they're trying to say. a normal part of our communication process is as we're listening to something, we're trying to formulate our opinion and what our response. Well, our brains doesn't function that fast. It's hard for it to do both. So as I'm listening, as you're listening to me now, and you're hearing me, your brain's figuring out how to process that. Now, if you're trying to respond back to me, you're trying to do that as well. Once your brain goes into that side to start responding to me, you've turned me off. So I could still have 15, 20 seconds to say, but you're already formulating what you're saying to my first 30 seconds of talk. So make sure you listen to the whole thing, and then kind of, if you need to take a second to process and come back with something, that's fine. And then ask those clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, find out why, because if you don't do it, you're not going to get to the bottom of whatever the problem is.
A couple things that my wife tells me, and she deals with this type of stuff as well in her professional career, but people tend to listen to respond rather than listen to understand. So if you can, as you're talking to people, keep that in the back of your mind. Hey, how am I listening to this person? Am I listening so that I can respond to them, or am I listening to try to understand what they're saying? That can help you to move through a conversation better and be a better listener.
Yeah, it's perfect. Your nonverbal communication speaks tons. I was just in negotiations recently, and the chief on their side was constantly just throwing his hands up and just like almost cartoonish the way he was responding, because it was like over the top with everything. So nonverbal communication is so key. A big thing with that is to be organized. That's going to show that you got your stuff together. If you look like you're a mess, you might be. And being on time. I like being on time. The other side tends to not. I think they try to posture a little too much for that. But posturing's stupid. Just be on time. Be respectful. Make sure we're informed and then we're not caught off guard. Your gestures and expressions can speak volumes as much as your words. So keep that in mind, whether it be negotiations or any other time. Sometimes you're doing it intentionally to try to draw a response, but other times it's just kind of just makes you kind of look bad. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then make sure we're looking the part. Your clothing and grooming. Make sure you look like you belong in the room. That's my big thing. I say you should be able to belong in the room. That's just going to kind of set the stage.
Gestures and expressions are really important. I remember sitting in one meeting where we determined what we were gonna. It was a negotiation session. Determined our position before we went into the meeting, and as we sat there and the other side was talking, there were three of us shaking our head no, but one person on our team shaking our head yes. And right there, what that told them, just that one gesture, told them that we were divided on this issue and it was something that they could attack us on. So be very, very careful of nodding your head or being in agreement. Sometimes that can work as a tactic to you if you have you're negotiating against another team and you have one loudmouth on the other team that likes to go off on tangents. If you want to get under the skin of the lead negotiator, you can start engaging that person and agreeing with him, but still dismissing the lead negotiator. But that's just another tactic. But remember, your gestures are very important in how you come off as a team.
And then I'm not going to spend a lot of time on local meetings and how to run a union meeting. The Manual of Common Procedures, I think, is one of the handouts, I believe. If not, you can get that at iff.org. But we have a whole webinar on how to run a union meeting. And the big thing I want to kind of hit at the bottom there is make sure if you're the president, you preside and let the members direct the meeting. That's kind of the key to kind of running your meeting. Obviously, good agendas, minutes, all that kind of stuff are important as well. And always follow your bylaws. We'll talk about consistency here in a little bit.
Yeah, we do have that Manual of Common Procedures in our handouts here, so
okay.
That's a good one for everybody to download.
Perfect. Yeah, make sure you get all those. When you're written communications, keep in mind with written stuff, emails, text, all that stuff, the key to all this stuff is they're there. Once you put them out there, they're there. They're there to be forwarded, copied, sent out, whatever. So keep that in mind. So you want your written communications to be professional. And if you're not the best wordsmith, or you're not the best speller, you've got a team. None of us are in this alone. So get with the rest of your team and have somebody proofread it. Say, okay, you know what? I know I'm not the best speller and my grammar's not the best. So I'm going to send before I send every letter email, I'm going to copy paste it and send to my VP because he's awesome. He really knows how to do that stuff. So he'll look at it, send it back to me, and then you go. But just make sure you're doing that. And never send, I always say, never send anything angry either, especially emails and texts. It's so easy. If you've got something there, let it set. It probably doesn't have to be dealt with right away. So if you got an email, and again, it comes back to that gut check. If you got an email on your screen that you just typed, and in your gut it does not feel right, it's like, man, should I? If you're thinking, man, I probably shouldn't send this, that's probably, the light should be going off. You're probably right. You probably shouldn't send it. And anything like that, just walk away from it for a little bit, come back to revisit, reread it again in their context, like if they were reading it, and then redecide if that's really what you should be doing. So really just angrily posting anything like that is probably not a good idea. I like phone calls, probably the best when I'm dealing with stuff like that, because phone calls is direct communication, so there's no misunderstanding because you can get feedback from that, which the others you can't get direct feedback from. And it's not being recorded or, so if you say something that's misunderstood, it can't be sent out. Voicemails are okay, but voicemails, again, it's recorded, so you're sending something. And again, a lot of people are really awkward on voicemails, so you might not be saying exactly what you want. So if you're going to send a voicemail, instead of like most of the time what I would do is just say, hey, Commissioner Brinks, call me back at your nearest convenience. This is Sean Abbey. I'm the local president, and I wanted to talk to you about a vote coming up tomorrow night. There you go. Not, hey, we have this vote tomorrow night. They're talking about closing our stations. This is total crap. We need to keep that open. And it just doesn't come across. Recording meetings, we never really encourage recording meetings. If you are going to do that, everybody should know. But recording meetings, a lot of times, just like this, we're recording this. The good part about that is because all of our other brothers and sisters who can't be here today can look at it later. The bad part about recording is maybe we're not going to be quite as open in this forum. And I'm not talking us as instructors, but maybe you guys out there, if I want you guys to ask a question or something like that, because it's being recorded, that might and that's the same thing in a meeting. Recording can't take in everything that's going on in the meeting. It can't take in that non-verbal communication, and it can't get the whole flavor of the room. And people might be withholding information or not quite as forward as they would be if it wasn't being recorded. And then with timelines, anytime you're dealing with timelines, hit your timelines. There's nothing that's worse and makes your communication worse than if you're missing your timelines. That just shows you're ill-prepared and don't know what you're doing. So make sure we hit those timelines, no matter what it is, whether it be a grievance or if you say, hey, if you tell a commissioner you're going to call him back in the next week, make sure you call him back in the next week. Go ahead, Andy. I'll let you take that one.
Okay, so here's some communication methods that both state and the international use to get out to our membership that are underutilized as well, mpffu.org. If we go on that website, there's login information for everybody. They get secure access. We get all our legislative alerts. We get all the news that we can find. A lot of these are webinars that we've recorded or are posted up on there. And also arbitration awards. If you have a grievance or a 312 arbitration you're dealing with and you want some more information, see if anyone's been through it, you can search through the database there and find those things. The MPFFU magazine, Michigan Professional Firefighter. IAFF puts out a magazine, the IAFF IAFF.org website, and they also have the Frontline app, which is a great tool. A lot of the handouts we have here are available on both of those sites as well. Obviously, login information is required for them as well. Everybody should be registered there and have your email registered because both the international and the state get out emails quite frequently. And tons of email updates comes. Some of them are extremely short notice things. Hey, we've got this issue that arose in Lansing. We need people here in 2 days. So having your email registered with the state and the international are both very advantageous and good things.
I'm going to fly through a couple of these so you can kind of get caught up. This is the first time we've done this in the hour format, so we're trying to make sure we keep you guys in here for an hour. But make sure social media stuff, computers have policies, make sure that's all done. Make sure people are using their own personal stuff, not work stuff. That can all be tracked nowadays, so it's just important. I even hate talking about it nowadays. It's like so funny that it's 2017 and there's still, I just read an article, Wisconsin or Minnesota, I can't remember, but firefighter just got fired for inappropriate use of a computer. It's just crazy. So make sure we're not doing that stuff. And the do's and don'ts of social media, there's stuff on our website. There's a bunch of different things on there on the mpffu.org. But again, make sure guys are just smart about it. Because here's at the end of the day, you can do pretty much anything on there and be okay because they've, legal's kind of held it as the water cooler of today is Facebook and social media. So instead of meeting at the water cooler, you're meeting on Facebook. But it's about being smart. All right, so guys aren't posting stuff on there about how they just worked 48 hours and didn't turn a wheel and got to binge watch the entire emergency series. Or hey, we had this great fire yesterday and with pictures and the person whose house that is probably doesn't think that's a great fire. So just kind of keep in mind of your audience when you're sending stuff out, because again, you might be thinking one audience is viewing that, but it can be shared, liked, everything like that, and other people are going to see it. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, I want to keep going here. So just look at this real quick, kind of nice between a boss and a leader. Some of the things I like that a boss says I, where a leader says we. A boss, uses people, where a leader develops them. And so there's a lot of good ones there. Boss takes credit where a leader gives credit. I always like to, I don't know if it's on there or not, but I think a boss always takes credit when things go well and blames their employees when things go poorly. And really, I think it should be the other way. I think a good leader gives credit when things go well and takes the blame when things go poorly. And I think that's really a kind of key to being a good leader. And the other thing about leading, all you guys out there, you guys have all experience and so just take the good stuff and get rid of the bad. The Opens Meeting Act I'm going to hit on really quick. That asterisk on there indicates it's in your handouts. But just keep in mind that there is an Opens Meeting Act in this state. There is a law for them to follow, and they need to follow it. So know what that is. Most of your meetings with either your council or their subcommittees or anything like that need to have agendas. They need to be posted in a timely manner. They need to know where they're at, what's going to be talked about. It needs to be an agenda, and it needs to be on up and up. So they should be doing that. If they're not, then you need to take action. And I don't want to go into this too in depth because we have a lot of stuff to get through. But you can also receive emails. A lot of times, your clerk or your one of your people in City Hall will be sending out blasts with emails with the packet for the week that's got all the information that's going to be talked about. Get in on that email. Say, hey, I want to get the email that the council gets so I know what's going to be on the agenda. A lot of times they'll put you on that. If you can't, go to the website. A lot of times that same exact information is put on their website. But you should at least make sure you're getting agendas before meetings and minutes after meetings, no matter what, whether or not you attend or not, which obviously we encourage you to do. Closed session is usually reserved for anything controversial, votes, things like that could be on like employees, legal things, land acquisition. There's stuff like that, and those are all in there as well.
Okay, so anyone got any questions now? You can either throw up a question on your question screen or raise your hand. I can turn your microphone on for you. A couple of seconds here. All right, it doesn't look like anyone, so we'll jump right into our next poll. Let me pull that up. There we go. Do you think it is important to have a vision and a plan on how to achieve that vision? About halfway through the people voting already. Another 10 seconds or so. Okay, I'm going to close it out, and I think this is a pretty resounding answer, yes. Absolutely, it's important to have a vision and a plan how to achieve that vision. You can see something into the future, but if you don't make a plan to get there, you're just you don't have any path or any way to get there. So yeah, definitely having a plan on how to achieve that vision is important.
Excellent. And that goes right in our next slide. It talks about, so we all said there's 100% of you said that you need a vision, but think about your local, think about your life, think about even your department maybe. Do you have a vision? That's a great way to get buy-in from your local is get that 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year vision or plan for your local. Where do you see your contract? Where do you see your leaders? Do we need to? Do we have five, seasoned veteran local leaders that are going to be retiring the next 2 or 3 years, and we have like one or two people that know what's going on? Well, maybe part of that vision is, hey, we need to get them educated. We need to send them some classes and have them spend some time with those other people before they leave, because otherwise we're going to lose all of our institutional knowledge of this local and have nothing to fall back on. So make sure you do that. It creates buy-in with your local. Get those goals done, short and long term, and how you're going to achieve those things. And then make sure you give direction. Use that plan, if you will, to give direction, to delegate how things are going to go, which is also going to foster that buy-in. And then as you're going through it, evaluate it. Say, hey, we decided as a group we need to get more educated, but we're a year in and we have sent no one to any classes, or no one's been able to attend any class. We need to do a better job. So are we getting closer to our vision? And then as things change, maybe you just hired two new guys, and they had 10 years on another local, and one of them was the president, one of them was a secretary. Oh man, hey, that's great. Now we got some guys with a little experience. Hey, I know you're new to our local, but hey, it'd be great if you can kind of help us out as you get through your career. And then make sure you have a personal vision as well. What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself at going forward? All good stuff. And that's one thing. I was at an IFF class one time. That's one thing they really harped on as far as something we probably don't do a good enough job with. So remember, as a leader, if you're the local president, you're the CEO of the local. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to be able to interpret your bylaws and your CBA. If you do not have those readily available and kind of know what those say, you probably need to do a better job with that. Spend some time with both of those. You might have to enter new agreements. You can defend or represent members in the local. You might have to sit on a trial board. And then fiscally, you need to know what's going on. You need to know what money's coming in, what money's going out, and work on budgeting. I think we'll talk about that in a minute. There's an IFF document on roles you can get at the IFF.org, and it talks about roles and responsibilities of everyone in your e-board. You can also see that, I think, in the manual common procedures, but they're both really good because it's a great way to show exactly what you should be doing. You need to represent your local. You've taken on the reins. You're a leader in your local. Now you need to be out. You need to be out there. You can't just be can't expect to be a leader and then not represent your local. And that means conventions, whether it be the state convention. Next one's in May of 2018 in Bay City. The IFF convention is a great place to go to get some experience and meet some more firefighters and IFF members from across the country. And that's in August of 2018 in Seattle. A lot of people in your local might be apprehensive to send people to those things, but I'll tell you what, they're well worth the price of admission. If your local can swing it, it's a great thing to do. And I hear a lot of times from people, our local's not, we don't have enough money to do that, or we don't, even see if you can maybe try to get with another local and maybe you can tag team some, get a ride share if you're close enough to where you can drive, like Bay City. You can, say, hey, we're in carpool down there, or maybe share a room. If you're going to Seattle, say, hey, it's expensive for a week, maybe we can share a room, or whatever you can do to try to make it more cost effective for your group. But try to be there. District meetings are obviously important. You need to be there. Those are easy and close generally. There's tons of conferences, seminars, commission meetings, and charities, political events. You need to be committed. It comes back to this. If you've committed to this position, you need to be committed to go to these things, because all these things are going to build relationships and make you a better leader, because you're going to meet some people in these events. They're going to help lift you up, and that's what this is about.
And yeah, a lot of these things takes time out of your life, and we know everybody's busy, just in everything you do, and family life and everything. But like Sean said, these things are important to go to. State and international conventions. So much good business gets done there, and you make so many contacts. It's very important that as many locals as we can are represented there.
Yeah, just picture there's some rallies and some things like that. And if everyone says it's someone else's turn, someone else's job, there's not going to be anybody standing there. So we need people there. I like this slide for one big reason, and one, it hits on an important part of being a good leader. And if I asked any of you guys out there what's one of the biggest things that you can't stand about a poor leader, it comes down to this ref and this official. What do we all want in life? We want a little consistency. If you're a leader, just be consistent. Whether it's how you run your meetings, how you make decisions, how you do things, just be consistent. That's pretty much what people want. hopefully it's not consistently bad, but but um, but they definitely want some consistency. They don't want things all over the board. Most people just kind of want to know what your expectations are, know how you're going to do things, and then that's what they're going to expect every single time. You can't come to one union meeting and run it like by the book and don't take any, it's this is so serious. And the next one you're like going to be laid back and let anybody do whatever they want. And then the next meeting you're going to be, it's that people do not like that. They want consistency or anything else. So make sure with meetings you're a strong leader. You use the rules of order. As you appoint committees, you give direction, expectations. One of the biggest things about failures of different groups is you need to give direction, expectations. And that can be gone right back to your bosses at work. You want good direction, expectations from your bosses. Same thing as a leader in your local. Give good direction and expectations for anybody in your committee work, whatever's going to happen. I see so many times in meetings across the state and across the IFF where people are given a task at a meeting, and then 2 months later they're like, "Oh, hey, Sean, how's that coming on the bylaws you're supposed to do?" And like, "Oh, that's right. I forgot 2 months ago at 8 o'clock at night. I was appointed to that, and no one ever said anything else to me, and I had no idea." If that's the case, if I'm appointed to that, make sure, the president should pull that person aside and say, "Hey, Sean, John, Tim, you guys are the bylaws committee. I need you to meet at least two times before our next meeting. I want you to go through our bylaws now, and I want you to highlight everything you think needs to be changed. At our next meeting, we'll talk about those things, and then we'll give you some revisions to take back. And then I want you to meet one time before our next meeting and get that all put in place. We'll bring them before the body at our next meeting, at that following meeting, and then we'll vote on them and send them off to the IFF to get approved." Boom. I know exactly what it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, everything like that. And remember, you're an ex officio on a member on all those. So again, maybe the first time you meet, say, "Tell me the first meeting you're going to have, because I want to be there to kind of kick this thing off and answer any questions you might have for me, and then you guys can take it from there." So just keep that in mind.
Given directions and expectations to your committees is critically important, right? You can establish a committee for charity, and you have a charity committee, and you have a vision in your mind of what this charity committee is going to do, but if you don't give them the direction on what you expect out of the committee, they might go off in a totally different direction and come back with something totally way out of base of where you want the committee to focus their attention. My local, we even went so far as to a number of standing committees developed a binder, like our elections committee. We have a binder for them. It goes in there. There's our election procedure in there, how to draft a ballot, what a ballot looks like, how to handle it, and the entire process. So when someone conducts an election, it's not just random or arbitrary. They've got a written set standard. They take the binder and here's everything you need to know. And the election committee and all our committees run so much smoother when they're given clear direction, and that's one way to help maintain consistency too.
Perfect. That's a great example, Andy. So delegate responsibility, your e-board, your stewards. There's workshops for that, your trustees, your membership. Delegate stuff. You can't do everything on your own. That's a big thing with the time management. A lot of leaders fail because they just try to take on too much themselves and don't delegate it enough work. So make sure you're delegating that work out and get that stuff done. Send your members to member orientation. There's now a $50 incentive to send your members to that. That helps foster better members because they're going to be educated, and we're going to encourage them to participate in your local. So that's all going to make things a lot easier for you. We're going to kind of fly through some of this stuff because I want to make sure we're done. And any questions on roles and responsibilities? You got anything up there?
Let's see, I've got no hands up. Anyone's got a question, they can pop it out too, but I don't see any questions.
Okay.
All right, we're good to go.
All right, make sure you know your constitution and bylaws, your local. You have to understand and interpret those. You need to update them regularly. You make sure when you do update them, get them approved by IFF General Counsel, and and General President will approve those as well. And make sure you have copies available. A lot of people do this stuff, and there's locals that haven't seen their bylaws in 20 years. Those things should be at your stations. Every member should have a copy. Everybody should know where they're at. And again, also have the MPFFU and IFF bylaws as well. You can get them all digitally. I know, like in our local, they have zip drives, and they just download them on all three on zip drives. So you've got all those. But make sure you know what they say, where they are, and all your members have them. Your CBA, we're going to fly through some of this, guys, because we're getting close to 8 minutes. I want to get you guys done. The CBA, you need to know your CBA. Crucial. I was just in a meeting recently one of our command staff meetings, and one of the people in the meeting was misinterpreting part of the contract at the top of their head. It had to do with how sick time was used. And I was like, no, that's not what it says. It says this. Well, he went in and read one particular portion that didn't agree with what he said, but like 2 or 3 bullets down, it said, but in this case, we do this. Well, so I'm like, well, yeah, but you have to look down 3 points down. It says what I'm saying. Oh, okay. If I didn't know that, a good leader knows that stuff's there. I would, if I didn't know that in that meeting, I would have been like, oh, yep, he's right. And he would have shown me. He would show me that one spot, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, he's definitely right. But I knew down 3 bullets down, it contradicted that a little or said something else. So it's important to know that. You need to interpret and you have to negotiate. Negotiations are ongoing. If you're in negotiations, you're doing it. If you're not in negotiations currently, you should be preparing for negotiations, because everything that you do it revolves around getting prepared for the next negotiation session. So make sure you're always preparing. And anything that comes up, a grievance or a question or something like that, that should all be put someplace, written down to put in prep for the next negotiations. Again, you should know your rules and regs, your employee handbook, and how those intertwine with your CBA. So, and obviously, we all know that the CBA is prevalent and prevails over your rules and regs or your employee handbook. So, know how all that works. There's a great resource page at mpffu.org. It's got all of these documents in there for you. So you can just click on that and get all those things there. These are all things that you should know about, including PARA, which is important. That gives us our labor rights as public employees. Public Act 312s are binding arbitration. That's crucial. And then a bunch of other ones there as well that are very important. So keep that in mind. Those are all there. Questions?
Question 4.
Let's get this poll going. So we have about 5 minutes left.
Not seeing any questions, so I'll throw up the poll.
Okay.
Here we go. Who is ultimately responsible for the finances of the local? That's a good question. Looks like we're getting these answers narrowed down to just a couple. Couple more seconds here.
There's a question up there too from somebody.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Yeah, let me. We'll pop this up and I'll pull up the question. And here we go. So
very good.
We've got attorney and accountant are out of the loop. That's good.
Yeah, and you're right. And it comes down to, I think I can go back here. I don't. Is that pop back up? If you can close that poll. Yep. It is the president. The president's going to be ultimately responsible.
And I don't see that question, Sean. Let me look again here.
No, okay. They just showed up on there. All right.
No, good to go. No questions or hands up.
Okay. Well, you are the CFO. You're the Chief Financial Officer of the organization, so you need to know everything. You need to know what's going on. I strongly suggest that you review the books continually. When I was president, every month I would go over the bank statement with the treasurer, and I'd sign it, and he'd sign it, so that we both went over it, whatever. There's also, you can do 2-line checks, so you're not having any single person write one check, but you need to make sure that your money's taken care of. So follow your bylaws. Your bylaws should have everything in there about how you spend your money. So everyone should be doing everything in accordance to the bylaws. And it's really important to have a budget. It's funny because you have a budget at home. You have a budget at the fire department. Why would you not have a budget for your local? It's really important to have a budget to know what's coming in, what's going out, and follow that budget through the year. Make sure you conduct an audit annually. This is actually an IFF bylaw that you're supposed to do. That's supposed to be submitted annually to the IFF. It's really easy to do. And by doing that, you get bonding. So your first $5,000 bond is borne by the IFF if you complete your annual audit. So make sure you get that audit done. Crucial. And at the end of the day, as much as it's important for that bonding, it's also important for peace of mind that you're getting everything looked at least once a year very thoroughly. Go ahead. There's another poll there, I think. Poll 5.
Let me pull it up here.
Budgeting.
Poll question 5. Here we go. Does your local produce an annual budget?
We'll just do this one quick, Andy, so we can get going here.
Okay. Yeah, we got 75% of the people already, so and quite a few don't.
Half and half.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so about half and half.
Right into.
You should do a budget. I mean, that'd be some good advice to try to get a budget done and go from there. PA 53 of 2012. That's the independent annual audit with Merck. So they basically Lansing wants to know how the unions are spending their money. It's basically just another BS piece of legislation out of Lansing. But what this is it does say that you have to have an independent audit of your books. And it needs to be filed. The date flies around a little bit. I think it's actually after March 1st right now. But Secretary Treasurer Chesney does a great job with this. He's established an MPFFU program where the MPFFU is your independent party, and so we can audit your books, and then submit the forms to Merck. And this actually amended PARA. This amended our Public Employees Relations Act. So
I see. Hold on 1 second there. I saw one person did have a hand up. If they had a comment, to throw their hand back up, I'll open their microphone up.
Okay. As you're doing that,
yeah,
I'm gonna go. Oh, go ahead.
Here we go. It's Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Are we there? We got you, Terry.
Hello?
No, maybe not.
Okay. Representation expectations. All of these have their own webinars, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but you need to know how they work. You need to know how to handle grievances. You need to know that members need representation. You need to know that members need guarantee rights in case there's going to be some type of criminal prosecution. You need to know DFR, so you're not going to be arbitrary or discriminatory or act in bad faith. And never, ever make decisions on your own. Follow your process in your local. And again, these all have their own webinars, 1-hour webinars for all these things. I just want to know let you know that they're there and that you're expected to know that stuff as a leader.
A few of those are up on the state union's website or on the Facebook members only page as well. You can take a look at. Perfect.
We're almost done. So we're going to finish up with how to get assistance. Local resources, experience. You got a lot of people right in your own local that can help you out, whether it be experienced union members, past board members, members with other skills. Maybe it's a CPA. I've got one local, they've got a CPA that's their treasurer. Awesome. Know how to get that where that's at. Know where your records and resources are for your local. At the state, there's your district VPs. There's our president right there, President Doherty. There's a useful link document that you can download, so you can see that in your handouts there. That's got all the contact emails and phones for all the people that you might need to get in touch with. So you've got your office resources, which is President Doherty, Secretary Treasurer Chesney, Michelle Chesney in the office, and there's tons of online resources as well at mpffu.org. So there's lots of stuff out there to help you. At the IFF, we have our very own 8th District Vice President, Mark Sanders, is there as well. His information is also on that useful links thing. You have your service representatives like me that can come out and help your local. And then you can call the office. The office has got, like I said, the most underutilized resource that we already pay for. There's the main number. You've got a PR department. You get a municipal financial analysis, a GIS. There's a great communications department led by Mark Triglio. Education, information, Guardian, tons of stuff. They can help you if your department's doing a SAFER grant. They can help you get that through. I think they're in the high 90 percentile to get their SAFER grants through. They do a really good job, and obviously politically they do a great job as well. So there's lots of help and resources out there for you. Locally, your own attorney on Michigan.gov. You can actually look at Merck and go into the Merck website there. You can see it there at Lara and look at cases, documents, links. So there's lots of places to get help. So sorry we kind of flew through the end there to get this thing done. We're trying to keep these things to an hour because we know you guys' time's valuable. This is the first leadership one we've done in the webinar format, so we're kind of seeing how these go. But be involved. There's tons of places to be involved and get your members involved as well. Politics. Make sure you foster those relationships. I don't want to hit that last bullet point. We kind of already hit politics quite a bit, but local office hours. All of your state reps and senators have local office hours. If you need to talk to them, you don't have to drive to Lansing. Find out when their local office hours are and talk to them there. Better yet, invite them to your station. They'll definitely like that, because here, those bullets under PAC, they want contributions, they want endorsements, they want our name, they want physical support, putting up signs and going door to door, and obviously they want our money support, which obviously you can. We're always looking for donations to PAC. At the end of the day, it's about being a good leader, and I did allude to it a little bit, and I said you've all had leaders in your life, whether it be work leaders, union leaders, leaders through school or anything like that growing up. A leader leads by example, whether he intends to or not. And that's kind of key. You want to be, in your mind, you've got good examples and bad examples just through life experience. So pull on those, emulate the ones you liked, and don't do some of the things that you didn't like. And again, that'll really help you out. And Ralph Nader talked about producing more leaders, not more followers. I like that a lot, and I think so many people are worried about power or leadership and things like that. They try to there's those leaders that try to crave power and hold it all themselves. They're going to hold all the cards and hold all the information because they don't want anybody else to get it. That's a horrible leader. That's a horrible position to be on. You want to empower people, and by empowering people, you're going to create more leaders, and that's what we want. We don't need a bunch of followers around here. We need more leaders. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, you're a leader. And that's what I hope you guys aspire to. All right, in conclusion, I know there's a lot of stuff on here today. We talked about in an hour. We filled this hour up pretty good. I hope you guys enjoyed it and got some tips. I said, at any class you go to, I hope you picked up a couple things. But continue your education. We got conferences and seminars. May 22nd and 23rd in Novi, we're going to have a union administration seminar. One day is going to be IFF PEP classes, and the other is going to be MPFFU type classes right here in the state. There's books, online resources, tons of union support, the handouts that you've got here, and those webinars. Check all that stuff out. It can only make you better. That's what it's about. Any final questions? And we have one final poll as well, Andy, if you want to take care of that.
Yeah,
get out of here.
Pull that poll up right now.
Basically, just want to know if you feel this webinar is giving you the tools to be a more effective leader in your local. In an hour's time, I know we covered a lot of stuff, but just this helps us kind of gauge if we're kind of hitting what we need to hit in these quick 1 hour webinars.
And then also at the end, there'll be a survey that pops up once we close this thing out, so take a couple seconds to answer that as well.
Yes.
All right, another couple seconds here, make sure everyone's got a chance to vote, and we'll close it out. And definitely, and I picked up a few things. Very good. Excellent.
Good.
Glad that can help. That's why we're here.
And I like that too. There's no no's, so that's good. At least everybody picked up something. Hey, I don't want to waste anyone's time. So we really thank you guys for attending today. It's great we can bring these to you on behalf of MPFFU and the MPFFU Education Training Committee. Thank Bill Pollock. He's been on here. He's our training coordinator, so thank him as well for supporting us in this. There are, like Andy said, there's going to be an evaluation popping up as soon as we close. So please complete those. That's how we get, the information and feedback to make these things better. And our information.
I'm looking here, Sean, and I don't see any other questions or hands up or anything like that. So
there you go. Okay. And then our emails are on there, so feel free to shoot us an email if you have anything you wanted to talk about that we did not cover. And otherwise, we are glad you're here, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending.
You guys still there?
Yep, I am. I'm in the process of pausing that.
Okay.